All right. Welcome back to another PD Active class, Neuro-Movement class. My name is Stephanie Comella. And this month we are continuing to work on gait-related things. We've gone over what it means to have hip extension. We talked about that last week. We talked about internal and external rotation of our femurs. You can do this with me if you're needing a little reminder. Oh, that internal and external rotation was the movement of your thigh bone, your femur bone. And then again, we talked about extension in the hips, so letting the thigh bone go backwards so that when we're walking, we get this trailing leg behind us. We can get a longer stride. Today, we're going to be talking about reciprocal gait patterns, which just means the right leg and the left arm are going to do something together, and so on and so forth. So this sometimes referred to cross body connection, contralateral relationships, reciprocal motion, all of those mean the same thing. Yeah. So what does it mean to have a step in an arm swing? Okay. So we're first going to just find your starting position here and just notice how you landed. We've been starting class kind of the same way for the last couple of weeks here with this gait stuff. And notice if your feet are turned out, if they're turned in, if you have one foot different than the other. And then notice if you have softness in your knees or the degree of softness, and then just let yourself sort of bounce through that. Be like, okay, I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to try to create that if it's not already there. And what does the rest of your body do when you do that? Can you let that energy flow through, or does it stagnate somewhere in the torso or the shoulders, or does the body just kind of let it flow through? Yeah, my husband's bouncing behind the camera. He's like, that looks good. And then go ahead and just let your arms rotate, or I should say let your torso rotate, let your hips move. Woo. And then let your arms sort of be just an extension of that. So I'm not trying to rotate my arms. I'm like doing it from the hips, and then my arms are just kind of like flopping through it. Yeah. Yeah. So when we have arm swing, when we're walking with our arm swinging gait, we want the rotation to be happening from our hips and our torso, and the arms kind of just swing as a result of that. We don't have to consciously think arm swing, right? We want it to be like, okay, the hips are moving and the arms are swinging as a result of that. And that's when I'm looking at someone's gait pattern, I'm looking for that reflexive, like the arms are swinging because of something else, not the arm swing is an indication that the hips are moving well. Okay, so it's kind of like a big picture thing. Okay, now that we've sort of like let all the blood pool in our fingertips, go ahead and stop that for a second. Walk around your room or march in place if you don't have a lot of space, but walking around is better. And let's just do a quick analysis of your own gait pattern. We've talked about a lot of things over the last couple of weeks: stride length, sound, how does your leg trail behind you, do your arms swing, things like that. Just start to pick out your one or two things that you notice about your gait, either that you're doing really well or that feel a little lacking. Shuffling, foot clearance, speed. Where do your eyes go? Do they look down or can you look ahead? So pick out those two things that you're going to note, and then we'll come back to those at the end of class. Good. All right. So let's talk in terms of reciprocal gait patterns. We're going to talk about the three, well, for this class, we're going to talk about three different types of, because with reciprocal gait patterns, it requires rotation, right? Okay. So let's talk about the three different types of rotations that can happen in your body. One of them, and we're going to put names to them, so there's a quiz throughout the class, right? Okay, one of them is called spiraling. So when you rotate over your left shoulder, notice where that rotation comes from. Did you just rotate your head? Were you able to rotate your shoulders? Did your hips go? Did your thighs move? Did your ankles kind of rank? That's all a normal response when you rotate over your right shoulder. I want the whole body to respond to that rotation, and that's called a spiral. So when I say spiral your body, we spiral, it goes all the way down to your ankles. Like your ankles, your feet are going to, okay? So let's do that a few times, going spiraling to the left and to the right. And maybe for you, that rotation stops somewhere. Maybe you're like, oh, I feel the rotation of my hips, but my ankles don't actually accommodate to that. So something to notice in your spiraling, we want that ankle accommodation. We talked about that like I think a year ago. We talked about ankle accommodation. So that's going to come into play. So spiraling is when the whole body rotates and accommodates. Okay. Next up, we have a twist, which is where the hips do not change. So maybe put your hands on your hip, and you're going to rotate the trunk only, like belly button and above rotates back. Okay. Which feels very different from spiraling, right? You almost feel like too restricted. You're like, I don't like that. I want to spiral. I want to move, right? Okay. So there's twist, which is just the trunk. And then we have counter twist. So for counter twist, it's when the shoulder, like when the trunk rotates to the right, for example, the right hip is going to counter rotate in the opposite direction. So as one part of the body goes back, the hip is going to go opposite. Okay. So let's try this. Put your right hand on your shoulder and your left hand onto the opposite hip. So when the right shoulder goes back, the hip comes forward. And you may have like I'm doing like a little push off in my foot to get that to happen. And you're like, where do I look when I do that? You can look forward. Yeah. So this is called a counter twist. Okay, let's do the other side. So hand on your left shoulder, hand across. Oh my gosh, my brain. Woo! Called a brain class for a reason, yeah? Counter twist. So hip goes in the opposite direction that the trunk does. Whoa, eye gaze forward. That might help. Uh-huh. Is this one tricky? I'm seeing a lot of like, oh gosh. Yeah, okay. So, maybe we can connect some dots in class and return this little self-assessment. Okay, so just the recap we have, because I know Carrie just jumped in. We have spiraling, which is like the whole body rotates, and that feels good. Doesn't it feel good? The ankles even accommodate to that spiral. Okay, and then we have twist, where the hips are rigid and the torso rotates. And then counter twist, where the hip and the torso rotate in opposite direction. Yeah. And maybe it's even like this. Yeah. Is that a little easier? Maybe that's easier. And that's the alligator tail that we were working on as well. Okay. Wow, that was a lot. Walk around your room. Just take one lap. Turn your brain off for a second. Yeah. Nice job. All right. Let's make it down onto the ground. We're going to do some work in reciprocal gait patterns. It looks like we needed some help with the counter twist coordination. So come on down to the ground. We're going to do some mat work to connect some of the dots. And then we'll come up at the end of class to see if any of those dots were connected in a functional way. All right, starting down on your back. If you get down there early before everyone else, you can have your knees wide and let your knees go side to side. Working on your internal and external rotation of your femurs, your thigh bones. Yep, if you get there early, yeah, just let yourself rotate through. Last 2-ish. And 1-ish. And nicely done. Bring your feet a little bit more underneath your sit bones. And let's bring our arms up towards the ceiling. Beautiful. We're going to just do a little bit to coordinate the diagonals here. So your right hand is going to touch your left knee. Bring your left knee into sort of a tabletop so they make contact with one another. Again, this is just like brain, right hand, meet the left knee, and then return. Do the same thing on the other side. Physically, this isn't very hard. Probably mentally, it's not very hard. But again, we're sort of just like laying down the groundwork for this relationship. Opposite hand to me. Opposite hand to me. Making that connection. Good. One more time, and you're going to go up and hold. Okay. Actually, let's make sure that the left hand and the right knee are touching. So if you were opposite, yeah, left hand and right knee. Let's get everyone on the same page. Bring your left leg into tabletop also. Okay. Now we have half of our body is connected. We're going to keep that connection. The limbs that are not touching, move them away. So bringing one arm up past your ear and the leg out long on the mat. And then bring them back to your center point. And you're just going to tap those limbs together. Just tap them. Meanwhile, that other one, the left hand is solid. Reach your right arm up. My dog's really needy right now. She's like nudging me. She never does this. Reaching the arm up. And then touch. Beautiful. So we're holding the left hand, right knee connection the whole time. And the right arm diagonal is moving. Okay, we haven't switched yet. Reach and pull. Yeah. Reach and pull. Let's do that one more time. And pull. Let everything rest down. Let your knees go side to side. So we created this connection in length through the right arm. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So right hand, left knee. Make them touch. Right hand, left knee, touch. These are forever connected for the next 45 seconds. These will not move. Bring your other limb in. Maybe you just tap with the fingertips. So left arm, right leg is going to move away from one another. And then just tap connect. Don't switch the sides. Remember, the side that's connected is staying there forever. Yeah. Cross the body. Nice. Yeah, I think that's a little more organized now, yeah? Maybe I explained it better on this side. Sound effects make everything better. Nice exhale on the exertion to bring the limbs back to your midline. Good, we're gonna go for that 2 more times. And last one. Beautiful, and release. Feet go down, let your knees go side to side. So again, connecting right and left brain. All right, if that felt challenging enough for you, you're gonna stay with that. Moving into a little bit more activation here, if you bring both legs into tabletop. Yep. Place the heel of your hand on the tops of your thighs in the corresponding side. So I didn't like cross my hands or anything, just hands on thighs. I want you to push your thighs into your hands and push your hands into your thighs. 1, 2, 3, push. Oh, and on screen, it doesn't look like you're doing anything, but you're doing actually a lot. Yeah, press your low back into the mat and then release. And the tension kind of goes away in your abs, yeah? Hands come down to your thighs, heel of the hand. Push your hands into your thighs and pull your thighs up into your hands. Lots of work going on here. Push, 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 and then release. Good. So the difference between what you're doing now and what you were doing, you're not holding on to your knees. You're not like grabbing them. You're creating pressure like that, okay? Here we go again. Pressure, go, go, go. Hands into the thighs, pull the knees into your chest. That's it, team. Oh my goodness. You're creating your own tension and then release. Good, good. Last one. Pressure. Go. And release. Nice job. Knees down. Let your knees go side to side. A little core activation there, I hope. We're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to cross your hands over. And if you have short arms, I know this could be a little bit interesting to sort out. So legs in tabletop. Again, cross your hands over. Put your hands on your thighs. You may have to bend your elbows a little bit because of how arms work. Here we go. Pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Low back presses into the mat. Team, looking good. And then release. Again, engage. Pressure, 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 pressure. That's it. Release. 2 more times. Up. Pressure, 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 pressure. Release. 1 more time. Pressure, 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 pressure. And release. Excellent job. Let your knees go side to side. We have one drill that goes in this little family, this little series, and then we're moving on. Okay. I'm going to show a little bit closer on the screen. So I don't know if you want to pop your eyes up to the screen. So we just did this crossover, yes? You're now going to go a little bit more on the inside of your thigh, which asks for some adduction, excuse me. So squeezing your thighs together and pulling your knees up. So instead of it being like right on top of the thigh and just working hip flexor, you're going to slide the hand a little bit more to the inside. You have to squeeze inward. Okay. And we're going to do some of that opposite arm and leg reach all simultaneously. So first, find that positioning of your hand. Let's just do 2 repetitions where we're doing that pressure. Here we go. Bring the legs up, find your hand positioning, feel the pressure that's squeezing the knees in and that's different from my different hip flexor there. Yes. And then release. And we're going to come into that again and hold. Pressure, 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 and release. This next time through, we're going to find that pressure, but you're going to release one of your diagonals and do the arm reach thing, but still holding the pressure. Okay, here we go. Find the pressure, little inner thigh. One side releases. Don't micromanage yourself. Reach out, still maintain that pressure of your hand. Bring it back in, and we're going to switch the pressure, switch your arms, reaching out, and then pull back in. Good. Pressure. You're going to have to kind of weave your hands a little bit. Alternating your side. Take your time. This isn't like a fast thing. It's like your brain's got to switch from like openness to connection, diagonal relationships, reaching and connecting. That's it, team. Reach and pull. Let's go 1 more on each side. Maybe if you're going different speed than me, make sure you're even. Oh my goodness, my core. Yes. And then release the knees, feet down, and spiral your thighs from side to side. Knee drop. Excellent job. That's a lot of like brain, body, like mental. The isometrics are hard because on the outside, you're like, am I doing it? On the inside, you're like, I'm working so. All right. I'm going to kind of stay in this like weird diagonal. I think it's nice to see some of the little profile, but kind of straight on. All right. So bring your arms out long on the mat and bring your arms out to the side. We're going to do what's called an X roll. We've done this one many times before, but again, this is kind of that cross body relationship. Right arm is going to reach up towards the ceiling. And we're going to curl our head and shoulders up off the mat just enough so that we can bring our right hand to our left thigh. And maybe depending on how much mobility and trunk control you have, maybe you can almost like slide your hand down towards your knee. And you maybe like prop up on your elbow, slide your hands down towards the knee, and then slide the hand up your thigh and then let it lay out again. Let's go the left side. Left arm up. We're going to reach, curl the head and shoulders up, reach your left hand to your right thigh, and then maybe pushing through your elbow a little bit on the floor. You're going to sit yourself up and slide your hand towards the knee. Slide the hand back and then release out. Okay? I'm going to turn to the side so I can see you better. Right arm up. Curl the head and shoulders up. We're going to slide. Maybe you push off on that elbow. Beautiful. So it's a diagonal. You're not doing like a Frankenstein setup. You're going to start to roll off to the side. Left arm, diagonal, roll. Maybe you sit up all the way. That's it, Lori. You've done this before. How far down can you go? Can you reach your shin? And bring it back. And Carrie, I'm going to challenge your Pilates knowledge. What is this starting to look like when we sit up? There was an exercise on Monday that we did. Good. Go ahead and work through that. You got it. How far down that leg can you go? Carrie, Lori, can you touch your pinky toe with the outside, with the back side of your hand? Like turning your palm. Yeah, nice. Have some fun with the team. I really want you to roll up on that elbow though. No Frankensteining. You're rolling. You're twisting, right? We're twisting in the trunk a little bit. Yeah, maybe one more time on each side. Finish on the side that you did not start with. And then roll all the way down. Bend your right knee so that your right foot is flat on the ground. And we're going to do this sort of bridge roll. I call it a bridge roll. I don't know what it's called. Bridge roll. We're going to call it a bridge roll. We're going to press your right booty cheek off of the ground and roll onto your left hip. And then roll the booty meat back to the ground. And you're going to stay on this right leg. So the right butt cheek is going to lift off the ground and you're going to start to rotate the hips towards the left. So you start to roll on the left side of your body and then bring the hip back down. Couple things that I want you to consider when you're doing this one, this hip rotation off to the side. We're going to be counter rotating in the torso, meaning your right shoulder should try to stay on the mat. Okay. So as the right hip is going left, the right shoulder is going more right. Something like that. Yeah. Make sure that the hip is moving, not just your knee. Okay, maybe one more time on that side with the counter twist. Hip goes across, the right shoulder stays down. Excellent. Switch to the other side. And use the self-touch, like kind of when we were standing, I said like, oh, put your hand on your shoulder, put your hand on your hip. That's going to give your brain a better mental image of like, you know, the ships passing each other, right? Okay. So if we have left foot planted, the left hip is going to be moving, but the left shoulder is going to be staying. So I'm going to go left hand on left shoulder, right hand on the hip. The hip presses across as the left shoulder stays down on the mat, and then return. And with counter twisting, it's nice to just look straight ahead. Usually I'm cueing you, right? Isn't that interesting? Usually I'm cueing you, look in the direction that you want to rotate. But for counter twisting, there's like hip rotation and shoulder rotation going the opposite direction. Which way do I look? Just look straight. Yeah, nice. Hip and across. Good. Hopefully it feels kind of nice on your back. For me, this one always feels so good. Yeah. One more time. Good. And then return. All right, we're gonna go back to that right foot again because I'm gonna add another layer. I didn't want to overwhelm you at the first round, even if it is, maybe you're like, I'm already overwhelmed. If you're feeling just challenged enough mentally with that or physically, just stick with that version. If you're ready to move into just like one more layer in that, some of you are already doing it, but I'll just bring it out to it. So right hand on your right shoulder, left hand on your hip. Do your counter rotation and make sure that the knee, your right knee, doesn't collapse in with it. We want to keep, Lori, I think you were already doing this, pressing your knee out to the side when the hip rotates, because you need, again, another counter twist in that femur joint that we talked about that first week, a couple of weeks ago. We need that rotation in the femur along with the hip rotation. There's so many things. And then reset, okay? So we have right shoulder staying down, right hip coming across, right knee pressing out to the side to the right. Okay. Just work through that a few times. And again, if you need a visual, pop yourself up, take a peek in the camera, and then go back to your drill. Yeah. Excellent. Maybe two more. And last one. Amazing. And return. Switch to the other side. We have left hand on the left shoulder, right hand on the hip if you like that little self-touch thing. And then hip presses across, the knee stays out to the side. Eyes are forward or just up on the ceiling. Again, if you know, there may be a side that you're like, whoa, that other side felt so natural. This side, I'm like so disconnected to, or something like that. Just give yourself the time. These are drills to build the brain body connection. Remember, we're just kind of connecting the dots now. We're not necessarily doing something super physically challenging, the brain body relationship. Yeah. Good. And lots of repetition. The brain needs repetition to understand what's going on. You need to practice a few times. Let's go maybe 2 or 3 more. Last one. Awesome. All right, go ahead and roll on over to your front. And we're gonna come into hands and knees position. And we're actually gonna end up sitting our hips down on our heels. If this flexibility doesn't feel like it's coming to you today, you can always sit on a pillow. Okay, gap the knee a little bit, either way. All right, we're gonna have our hands out in front of us, so hips are back on our heels. When we're in this position here with the hips flexed at such an angle, it kind of locks our pelvis in place. So any movement, like rotation of movement, which is what we're gonna work on, that's happening would by definition be a twist, right? Because our pelvis is not able to move when we're in this position. We've like anchored it down. Any movement is gonna happen in the spine. So right here, we're gonna bring both hands to the center and a little bit out. We're gonna pull your right arm to your right shoulder. And so show me, if you're rotating towards me, show me the logo on your shirt or the buttons on your shirt. Yeah, maybe looking to your side. And then, yeah, some of you already did it, like eyes and head over your right shoulder. Yeah, go ahead and switch to the other side. So left hand to your left shoulder and then rotating open, show the logo of your shirt to the side of the room. Let's go ahead and move through that a few times. And notice your hips can't move with you, yeah? So this is really training trunk rotation, trunk twisting. Excuse me. Okay, and switch. And let's just go ahead and play with this at your own pace. This little twist drill. Little body awareness too, like what does one side do in comparison to the other? Maybe your body is so smart that it's like, ooh, I can like shift off of my heels to get some of that rotation. You're like, ooh, my body likes to like do that. See if you can center your sit bones over your heels. Try not to let your body do that. So it's a true twist. Yep. Nice. One more time. Amazing. Pull forward into your full quadruped. And let's just do some rocking, some sagittal motion. We've done a lot of twisting, a lot of rotation. Let's just do some forward back stuff. And I don't know, sometimes like when I just get to the sagittal stuff and my brain's like, wait, this is kind of boring. I like the rotation. I like that. Yeah. Beautiful. And then go ahead and lay all the way down. I'm going to get rid of my pillow. If laying on your stomach feels a little bit too much for your extension, feel free to lay on a couple of pillows, and then you don't have quite so much flatness. You can kind of get that arch. All right, so we're going to start with our hands kind of by our side here. Awesome. And let's do a little bit of an experiment. Separate your feet so that they're wide. Like if you had like a really powerful stance. And you're going to slide your left arm up and then pull your right hand down and give yourself a little push to look over your shoulder. You're rotating to the right. Yeah. And then bring that torso back down. You're going to switch the arms. Your right arm is going to reach up past your ear. Left hand's going to come down and then rotate over that shoulder. Okay. So I gave you like pretty general direction on what we're doing. Notice for yourself, do you do a strict twist in your spine? So hips do not move. There's no weight shifting. Or is there a little bit more of a spiral going on? It's not bad. Either, like, there's no right answer. I didn't tell you what I wanted. Just notice what happened. Or do you counter twist? That's like your third option, right? So there's spiraling, there's twisting, and then there's counter twisting. Just notice what is it that your body does. Try to keep your head lifted a little bit. You're looking over your shoulder, not underneath your armpit. Let's do one or two more finish up so that you feel equal on both sides. And then we're going to press back into a child's pose and just give yourself like a little stretch for your back. That was a lot of extension. All right, so we're going to do that drill again. And you're going to do an option of rotation that was not your default. Okay, because I think some of us were probably twisting, some of us were probably spiraling in that last one. So pick a different type of rotation for your body. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what is different. I want you to have at least two different types of rotation available to you in that. So if before you felt your hips kind of rotating up, try to keep your hips flat, and maybe the motion is going to be smaller. We said when we do twists, the torso rotation is smaller. If you felt your hips not rotating before, then I want you to like lean into that, maybe almost rock from side to side. Let the whole body move through it. So whatever you didn't do last time. Awesome. And if you're spiraling, I didn't note this last time, but if you're spiraling, notice what's happening with your thighs. You're almost starting to do like a little crawl thing, huh? Which is good. Spiraling precedes gait and locomotion. It's a good sign. Yeah, maybe one or two more even up so that you've done both sides equally. Excellent. And then press back and stretch out your back in a little child's pose or something restorative. Pretty cool, yeah? Cool. And then bring it on in to your hands and knees. Scooch yourself back so that you have a little runway because we are going to do some crawling here. Crawling is a very primitive form of reciprocal gait pattern. It's a primitive form of gait training, of walking, right? So if we can crawl really well, then maybe our walking, our upright walking is probably going to be a little bit better. So but before we start locomoting, let's go ahead and just do that opposite hand and leg reach thing that we did when we were on our backs. So the right hand and the left knee are going to make a relationship with one another. I want you to actually grab them. So now you're standing on two limbs, which is balance in itself. And then reset. And then go ahead and find that relationship again on the other side, the other diagonal. Yeah, so there's this little bit. And let's work from side to side, from opposites to opposite. And hopefully as you go through a few more repetitions of this, you can like start to limit the drama, the instability. You're just like, boom, I'm ready to go. Yeah. And Carrie, bring your knee towards your hand as well. So you're lifting up your knee and your hand simultaneously. There you go. That was probably my explanation that needed work there. Excellent. One more time or two more times or whatever, and finish with your right hand on your left knee. Right hand on your left knee. We're going to extend right hand and left leg. And let your belly drop a little bit and maybe find some extension. Yeah. And then we're going to make that connection again. And you're going to round your spine a little bit. You can look down towards your thigh. Reach, same side. Extend a little bit when the legs go out. Yeah, eyes are up. And then eyes drop down, find some flexion. Extend, eyes go up. Feel the relationship between the back of your right shoulder and your left butt cheek. Right shoulder, left butt cheek. Beautiful. And then hip flexor in right armpit. Reach. Start to draw those lines. If you're a visual person, think about like the vectors that are going out from those limbs. One more time there. Good, good. Set the hips back and sort of just roll out your wrist after that last one. And of course, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Whenever you're ready, come on up. What is it now? Left hand, right knee. Make a relationship. Extend, eyes come up a little bit. Again, you're going to squeeze right butt cheek, left shoulder. Flex the spine and look underneath. Your eyes are going to see that relationship and also make that relationship too visually. Reach, feel the squeeze in the back diagonal, and then return. And reach, and return. And reach. Beautiful. Go ahead and work out at your own pace. Feel relationships of the moving limbs going away from one another and towards one another on the squeeze and the connection. Last two. And one. Bring it down. Take off your wrist. Roll the wrist out. Good. And then let's have you come up. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to come into your hands and knees. We actually have to crawl. We did all the crawling drills and then we didn't actually crawl. So we need to crawl. When we crawl, I want you to consider that two limbs are always lifting at the same time. So if we go right hand and left knee, step forward and land. Left hand, right knee, hold up in a little pause, hesitation, and then they step forward together. As you do your crawling, try to make the limbs that are lifting always the same distance apart, as if they were tethered. You wouldn't want to stretch the tether or let the tether go on slack. Good. Once you've hit the end of your runway, I clearly have. Same thing and same rule. Don't let the tether go on slack or tension or excessive tension. Yep. That's it. Good. We're gonna do one more lap, unless you have a really long runway. Just right out of space. Yep, I'm gonna watch. And it's okay to crawl really slow. Again, this is not like a super like physically exhausting thing. We're just creating this brain body relationship between the right and the left sides. Yeah, Carrie, very good. Lori looking good. And I love the shoulder stability there in that, Lori. Lori's going to teach this class soon, I think. Nice. And then crawl backwards and come back to your sweet spot. All right. Once you've come back to, you finished that last lap, we're going to come into high kneeling. So we're just going to take those same crawling principles and just bring you more and more upright until we get to your standing. Okay. So if we were to go left arm reaches up and right leg slides back. And then let's consider your right hand and left leg, like those two. If we were in your hands and knees, they'd be like grounding into the ground, right? So if we're in this position here, you kind of push into the ground that way. You're like a salsa dancer. And then step that leg back in. Opposite arm and leg, one arm up. And it's kind of a stride backwards. I know I'm a little bit out of the camera, so let me come here. So it's like sliding backwards, especially if you're on something a little slipperier. Sliding backwards. Yeah. Sliding backwards. Disco. Sliding backwards. You got it. Maybe two more. And last one. Perfect. We are going to do our knee walking backwards to start. So turn around, make sure you have runway behind you. Your left leg is going to step back and your right arm is going to reach up towards the ceiling. Your right knee is going to come level it out. Right leg goes back, left arm reaches up. And then step off and together. I know, knee walking backwards hard. Left leg, right arm. And then center. Right leg, left arm. And then center. All right, turn around. We're not going to go forward yet. Turn around. We're going to do that same thing facing another lap. So right leg goes back, left arm reaches up like you have a burning question. And then you somehow sort of have to even up. Other side. And if you feel like you can bypass that even up phase and you just want to go right into it. Yeah. Good. Turn around. We're not going to go forward yet. Do another lap. Yeah. Last one. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Nice job. One last drill before we put it all together standing. Sit down on your bum. I'll shoot it straight with you. I missed this one. I wanted to do this one before we crawled. We're going to use some sit bone walking. Because like I said, we want the gait pattern to happen from the pelvis and the torso. And the arms and the legs are sort of just extensions of that. That concept is called the spinal engine. Where and there's interesting if you, well, this is a hard name to Google search. Serge Grakovetsky, he did this analysis on a quadruple amputee who walks on his pelvis. And they wanted to see, okay, what would it look like for someone that doesn't have limbs to walk? And what does that look like in comparison to someone that does have limbs and walk? And they were the same. So really, the walking pattern originates from your hips and spine, and the legs are extensions of that. Like I said, you're sort of just like noodles. Your limbs are sort of noodles that become extensions of the swiveling in the pelvis and spine. So if we were to do something like that, where we just walked with our pelvis, like for lack of better just imagery, I guess. Like imagine you don't have legs, and just how would you walk? How would you walk without legs? How much rotation in your pelvis does that take? How much weight shifting? Notice the weight shifting that takes. Even some mobility, and then go backwards. Even mobility in your spine, like looking forward, it's like, I need side bending, I need some rotation. And if you ride horses, this is the same sort of rotation and movement in the pelvis that you would when you're riding a horse. It's like, ba-dum, 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 right? So work forward and backwards at least 2 laps. Yeah. I know, weird, right? Okay. Now imagine that was inserted right in between before crawling. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and roll over your shins or somehow come into hands and knees. We're going to transition up onto your feet, but we're going to do that by way of a gait pattern with 1 foot forward. Make a relationship there. Hand and knee connection, step the foot back, hand and knee connection, step the foot back, hand and knee connection. Yep, and I know that we're getting to the end here. Alana's probably got to leave soon. Huh? This class went by so fast for me. All right, pick a side that you want to stand up on, and if you need to migrate over to a chair, go for it. Otherwise, step together. Good. And then just walk around the room. What do you notice? Did anything change? Anything feel a little bit different for you? Whether that was your things that you highlighted before or not. Come back to your center. We're going to do another lap. Don't worry, we'll do another lap. Come to your center and let's just check in with our spiral. Again, noticing the loosey-goosey arms, the initiation from your pelvis. Do your ankles accommodate? Are you rolling to the edges of your feet when you spiral? That's the ideal. Can you see behind you a little bit further when you're rotating? Yeah. Oh, that's a vestibular challenge just right there, huh? All right, let's try the twist. So feet are flat, basically nothing below the belly button moves. Rotate. And rotate. If you want to put your hand on your shoulder, sometimes that's helpful to the rotation. Same, better, different, worse. And then counter rotation, or sorry, counter twist. Counter twist. Your hand's going to cross, same side, rotate and rotate. Remember, you can kind of pop your knee up a little bit. And if you're feeling spicy and you want to just go like rotate, 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 rotate. Good. Now we're literally like in salsa dancing lessons. Nice, Adam. More hip rotation though, less torso. So now start to get your torso to stay forward and just let your pelvis roll underneath you. But there kind of is still this counter twist that's happening. Yeah. And then continue to do that, but go for a walk. So the hip that the hand is touching comes forward. Oh my goodness. And just know Rome wasn't built in a day. And, you know, we're kind of exploring these concepts for some of us the first time. Once we turn off the recording, we can kind of gather and be like, whoa, this does not make sense to me still. I'm still stuck. And then just turn off your brain, let go of the arms and just walk. Just walk. Because I don't want you to have to think about all those things when you're walking around. That's too much. We want it to just sort of be reflected in your body at some point. Nice. All right, bring it back to your center. Shake it out if you need to. That was a lot. Like my brain is going. Yes. And I knew what was coming. So just take a moment to let yourself feel grounded. Let your feet be planted. Close your eyes if that feels right for you. Notice postural sway. Hopefully you have a little bit of movement, weight shifting, sort of involuntary subconscious weight shifting in your quadrants. Maybe you have your weight a little bit more forward on the ball of your foot. Remember, that's indicative of core activation, midline connection. And kind of just roll back, play back some of the drills that we did in class today. Maybe make some notes on things that were particularly helpful. And then a few mental notes on things that were still confusing. Like, I don't know if I was doing that right. I didn't feel what she was trying to get me to feel. And we can talk about those after the recording turns off. And if you don't already have that sway from side to side, go ahead and grab the sway. You can open up your eyes, take a deep breath in, reach the arms up. Oh, let those ribs expand and exhale out. Team, that was like, I think, record fastest class, at least for me. I'm going to turn off the recording and be happy to hear what you found.